gentlemen, welcome back to the Tea and Crystals podcast. I am T.
And I'm Crystal.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an update for you, something we covered in episodes 5, 6, and 7 of this podcast, the Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya. There have been some developments and a conclusion, hopefully, to the story. And Crystal has all things Take Care of Maya. Please, Crystal, fill the people in.
Yes, so this isn't an actual episode, you guys. This is just going to be the update. So if you haven't watched the Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya, or if you haven't listened to our podcast and you want the full details, it's in episode 5, 6, and 7. But just for a quick recap purpose, we covered a true crime story called Take Care of Maya. It was about Maya Kowalski. She was 10 years old when she was diagnosed with CRPS, which is complex pain syndrome, I think. And her mother, Beata, who was a nurse, it took her a while for them to find this diagnosis. She had to take her to several hospitals. But after several hospital visits, she found a specialist who was able to diagnose us with CRPS. His treatment for her was to get high doses of ketamine. She started off in a ketamine coma, and then she went in and had regular doses of ketamine to treat it, which actually worked for her for about a year. Unfortunately, after that year, she did have a relapse, and she got sent to the emergency room. This is back in, I want to say 2016, when she was about 10 years old. And long story short, Beata was accused of Munchausen by proxy, which is basically when a caretaker is accused of making the person that they're caring for sick. So it's usually a parent with a child. And because of this, Maya was taken away from her parents and placed under state custody, where she was essentially medically kidnapped for 3 months. The way that she was able to get out of that is, unfortunately, by her mother committing suicide, because the charges were really against her mother, not her mother and father. It was really against her mother. So after her mother committed suicide in 2017, she was granted the ability to go see another specialist, who then confirmed she did have CRPS. And it was 5 days after her mother committed suicide that she was given back to her father, but she was done so under the condition that she was no longer able to have ketamine treatments. But due to that, her family felt very wronged for the way everything went about. And so they did end up suing not only the hospital, Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in Florida, they also sued the company that was hired to do the child abuse investigation, which was Suncoast and Dr. Sally Smith, as well as one of the social workers, Kathy Beatty, who took a very unhealthy and unusual liking to Maya, like to the point where she would tell her that she was going to adopt her, that her mother was crazy and making things up, that she didn't have the diagnosis that she had, that she wasn't feeling the pain that she was feeling, so on and so on. It's a really wild story. It's really crazy. But at the conclusion of the story, the 3-part story, in episode 7, that conclusion was during the time that they were doing their trial. Finally, the ending of the documentary, it showed them trying to go to trial, but because a higher court had ruled that, or hadn't ruled whether or not they could sue for punitive damages through the hospital, the judge that they were dealing with decided to push their date off indefinitely, and they gave them a trial for September 11th, 2023. So, which just happened to be the same exact week that we were covering this story. So when we concluded our story, they had just started their trial. Yesterday, on Thursday, they did finally conclude everything, and they came back with a verdict. So Kathy Beatty, their investigation with Kathy Beatty, the social worker, they ended up dropping their charges against her, not because they wanted to. It was a strategic move. I don't know why. I didn't understand it myself. You're more than welcome to look it up to see what articles were explaining that. They did settle with Suncoast and Dr. Sally Smith before this trial started. So they settled it for about $2.1 million, I believe. But their big trial was with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. They were suing for a total amount of $200 million. That's including the punitive damages that the higher court did eventually rule that they could include. So yesterday the verdict finally came out, and the jury ultimately decided to side with Maya and her family. So she was awarded, I want to say it was like $264 million.
Yeah, it was a little over $260 million, which is insane. Like,
Wild.
I think that's between the three of them, right? The dad, her, and the brother. I think total among the three of them, it was about $260 million. I know the dad was awarded, I think, and just on one, I think, punitive claim, it was $50 million. Like, these are crazy numbers.
So ultimately the jury decided not only did the hospital wrong the family, but that they were essentially responsible for the events leading up to Beata's suicide, which was Maya's mother.
And that you just saw the kids, at the plaintiff, bench, just break down into tears, as soon as it was like, that was really, Maya was really emotional when it came to her, situation, but especially when it came to them essentially saying, yes, the hospital is to blame for this suicide. There wasn't a dry eye in the house,
No. And it was, like he said, it was really emotional. I mean, this has been years in the making. Maya is now a teenager. At the time of the documentary, she was, a teenager, but she's getting into adulthood now. She lost her mother when she was 10 years old, after she was medically abducted. And at that time, she didn't even know really what was going on. She didn't really understand why she was being kept from her family. Her mother, after she was in the hospital, and her parents' rights were taken away, she never saw her mother again. The only interaction they were allowed to have was supervised phone calls, and even that, I want to say, got taken away because of Kathy Beatty, the social worker. But onto the verdict. So the hospital attorneys did say that they will appeal the verdict based on clear and prejudicial errors, and accused the Kowalski's attorneys of misleading the jury. They said, the facts and the law remain on our side, and we will continue to defend the life-saving and compassionate care provided to Maya Kowalski by the physicians, nurses, and staff of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and the responsibility of all mandatory reporters in Florida to speak up if they suspect child abuse. In a closing statement on Monday, Greg Anderson, the lead counsel for the Kowalskis, characterized the hospital's defense of its actions as revisionist history that attempted to blame the family for the hospital's mistreatment of Maya and her mother. All children's doctors, he said, wanted to punish a mother who dared to question their medical expertise. What was the purpose of all this other than arrogance and the belief they could get away with it? So that is the update. You are more than welcome. There's a bunch of articles out now. You are more than welcome to go and check it out. If you have not seen the documentary, please go see it. If you do not want to watch it, but you want to recap, we have 3 episodes dedicated to it.
And Crystal did a very, very, very good job of recapping everything. We went into depth on these episodes. We gave y'all all the information that was available to us. Also, I would suggest you all, there's a lot of court YouTube channels out there. Go catch up on the trial. I was watching some of it myself. I watched the entire reading of the verdict. and some of their comments afterwards, and you can hear the level of alleged disdain in the voice of the lawyers representing the hospital. They were not. I really don't think they expected to lose to the Kowalskis. Honestly, I don't know if I expected them to lose to the Kowalskis. I really, they had a lot of evidence, and that's thanks to Beata. I think without Beata, taking so many notes and recording so many things and taking videos and stuff, I don't think they would have had a chance in the world of winning this this case. So I'm glad they did so far. I know the lawyer said that they do plan to appeal the ruling. So the story may not be over yet. This may still be some years down the road before things are finally concluded, depending on how the appeals court looks at everything. So yeah, thank y'all for joining us for the update. Crystal, thank you for giving us this wonderful update, giving us all the information. If you all have any comments or anything, please leave them in the comment section wherever you are watching this. If you have any questions, let us know. If there's anything else that you would like us to cover in relation to this story, please give us information, and we will be more than happy to do another update for y'all. Is there anything else you got to say to me before we get up out of here, Crystal?
Just that I am happy that as of right now, justice for Maya and her mother, Beata, seems to have happened for them. So
yeah,
hopefully they can heal from this, because while Beata will never come back, this has been something that's been hanging over them for years, and I'm hoping that they can now start to try to move on. So thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys on our next episode. And if you haven't checked out episode 12, it is on our Facebook, on our YouTube, on our Apple, Spotify. It's everywhere. Go check it out. Okay. Bye.